What's up everybody, and welcome to this video where I quickly want to explain how I structure my notes. So let's get straight into it. Namely, the things that I want to cover are download plus initial setup, the bullet points, code examples, reference links and backlinks. So let's start with the first one, download and initial setup. So to download the notes, simply on this page here, click this green button, and here you can, for example, download a zip. Or you can just copy this URL here and then go to VS Code. And here in VS Code, open the Explorer and then click this clone repository button. And then simply paste here the URL and then press enter. Then you need to specify where you want to save it. So let's put it on the desktop. And when it's done downloading, VS Code asks if you want to open it. So simply open that and then open this notes.md file. And the first time you open it, it probably looks very confusing. And to take care of that, simply click into the search bar here, then select show and run commands, and then search for fold all. So this command then folds everything here, and then just manually unfold this last pound symbol, and then the notes look a lot less confusing, and this is actually the best starting point for exploring them. So this is how you download the notes and initially set them up. So now let's get to the second point, namely the bullet points. And as you can see, I'm using bullet points for my notes, and there are two different types. There are bullet points with this pound symbol that are highlighted here in blue, and those bullet points represent headings. And then we have these regular bullet points without any highlighting, and those are the actual notes. So at this highest level here, those are here the notes for VS Code in general. And these are the headings, so title bar, activity bar, editor, and so on. And if you click, for example, into the activity bar, and then here unfold this last pound symbol, then you can see here the notes for the activity bar and the respective subheadings. So Explorer, Search, Source Control, and so on. And again, if you click into the Explorer, then you can see here are the notes for the Explorer, and you can also see that there are no further subheadings. So this is how I use bullet points for my notes. So now let's look at the third point, which are the code examples. And here again, there are two different types. There are smaller code examples that are included directly within these notes. So for example, if you go into the debugger, basic functionality, then here setting breakpoints and then purpose. So here's a note that says, when debugging, you are usually interested in a specific part of your code. And if we unfold that, then you can see here's a code example. And here you can see that it's Python. And if I unfold that, so here's then the code. And then sometimes I'll also add some explanatory notes for these code examples. So this is the first type of code example directly within the notes. The other type are slightly larger examples, or code examples where the code actually needs to be in a file. And those I put into this demonstration examples folder. So if I click on that, you can see there are different subfolders. So if you go, for example, into the debugger, there are a couple of files. So if I open the basic functionality, then you can see this is a slightly larger code example. And also in this code example here, I'm importing my module, which is this file here. So this code here actually needs to be in a file so that I can then import it within this file. Okay, so those are the two types of examples that I have. Smaller ones directly within the notes, and then bigger ones in this demonstration examples folder. So this is how I use the code examples. So now let's get to the fourth point, which are reference links. Namely, throughout the notes, I heavily link to other notes. So for example, if you close the debugger and go into search, and then here side notes, here's a note that says searching a multi-root workspace. So here I'm linking to the multi-root multi-root workspace node. So to get to that node, you can simply control click this number here. This takes us then to the reference number 134. And this reference here actually links to the Explorer heading. So if you control click that, then VS Code jumps to the heading, and that's because in Markdown files you can only link to headings and not specific nodes. So to get around that, what I did is I specified where you can find the respective node here in the title. So within these quotation marks. So now let me show you how you can find this specific node. So therefore, let's split the editor, and then here we scroll up and close the search. And now to find that multi-root workspace node, we need to go to the Explorer. So open Explorer, then Workspace, then accessing files and folders, ... So this would be this node here. Accessing files and folders outside of the workspace. And then lastly, or create a ... So this would be this node, or create a multi-root workspace. So this is the multi-root workspace node that this node here is linking to. And that's how you can use reference links to find specific nodes. So now let's get to the last point, which are backlinks. And backlinks, so to say, are the opposite of reference links. To show you what I mean by that, let's close this editor here on the left. And now let's say you're currently interested in those multi-root workspace nodes. So after reading them, you might ask yourself, are there any other nodes here that mention a multi-root workspace? Or in other words, are there any other nodes here that link to this specific multi-root workspace node? i.e., are there any other backlinks? And to find that out, what you need to do is you need to simply check if there's a reference to this specific node here. And there are two ways in which you can do that. The first one would be to use the search functionality, so that you can access with Control F. So this opens then this window. And now to check if there's a reference for this node, simply highlight the first three words of the node. And that's because in those titles here, I usually just use the first three nodes of the word if there are more than three words in a node. So just highlight or select the first three words, then press Control F, and now the search is already populated with these words. And here you can see there are 3 matches. So let's jump to the next one. And here you can see this is this reference, and that's actually the one that we are looking for. So this is referring to this node, because this one here after that is a more specific reference. So that's the one we're looking for, 134. So that's the first option that you can use to check if there's a reference, namely the search functionality. And the second one would be to simply scroll down to those references here and then manually search the specific reference, or check if there's a specific reference to this node. And this should be easy to do, because as you can see, those references here are grouped by the heading. And by the way, those headings here are also ordered in such a way how they appear in the nodes. So for example, the first heading is the title bar. So that's why here also the first group is for the title bar, then activity bar. Here's also activity bar, then Explorer, and so on. And then within these groups here, the titles, they are also ordered by how they appear in the nodes. So for example, the first node under the Explorer heading is Workspace, and these are also the first references that appear here. They are all related to the Workspace. Then the next one is Purpose, so that's what comes here next. There's just one reference. Then after that, there are the reference to the different views. And lastly, references to the side nodes. And just as a side note, because I reordered those references in this way, that's also the reason why those numbers here are out of order. But that's not really important, because they don't mean anything anyway. Okay, so now let's see how we can check if there's a reference to this node in this way. Namely, therefore, we need to look at the Explorer group. So here, this group. Then to the workspace references. So we only need to consider those. Then the next step would be to check for accessing files and folders. So this would be then here. And then lastly, or create a ... And again, this is this reference that we've seen before, reference 134. Okay, so those are the two options, how you can check if there's a reference for a specific node. And now to see the backlinks, you simply need to control click this number here at the front. In this case then, this inline window here opens, but that's just because in this case there are multiple backlinks, namely 2. If there would just be one, then VS Code would directly jump to the respective node. So to just quickly show you that, let's close this. And then here, reference 188, this one has only one backlink, so if I control click that, then it jumps directly to the respective node. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so now let's go back to our reference 134. Let's again control click that. And then here are the two backlinks. So if you double click them, then you can jump to the respective node. So this first one here would be then within the search, and then side nodes. And again here, this is the node searching a multi-root workspace. So that's the one that we've seen before. And now let's also see the second backlink. So if I open it again and then double click the second one, then here this one is within the settings. Then settings editor, settings can be applied at different scopes, workspace folder settings, and then the node says only apply to a respective root folder within a multi-root workspace. So those are the two nodes that link to this specific multi-root workspace node. So this is how you can use backlinks to see all the reference links that link to a specific node that you're currently interested in. And with that, now we have basically covered all the points that I wanted to cover. However, before I end this video, I want to mention one more thing. Namely, I want to make it more clear how reference links and backlinks relate to each other. And therefore, you basically just need to consider how you track down the respective information that you're looking for with these different types of links. So to show you what I mean by that, let's fold this. And with reference links, what you do is you start at the reference link, then you go to the reference number, and from the reference number to the title, and lastly then from the title to the respective node. And with backlinks, it's exactly the other way around. So you start at the node, then you check if there's a title. From the title, then you go to the reference number, and from the reference number, then you go to the reference link. So in a sense, they are an inversion of each other. And hopefully this way of looking at reference links and backlinks makes it more clear how they relate to each other. Okay, so now we have really covered all the points that I wanted to cover. And hopefully this video was helpful in explaining how I structure my notes and how to best make use of them. Thanks for watching.